talk to you a little bit about the role of the housing counselor and exactly what it is that counselors can do to help you through this process. Everybody says call the counselor, and you may be thinking, why? What can they do to help me that I may not have been able to do myself? Right? So let me begin by telling you who the housing counselor is. Not who I am, but who the housing counselor is. Because I think I speak not just for myself, but for housing counselors, particularly HUD-approved housing counselors. And we're always told to explain to people, housing counselors, as the trusted intermediary. And I've not determined what exactly that means, other than someone who you can trust. And I would like you to feel like you can trust your housing counselor to guide you in the right direction. Your housing counselor is someone who works for you in this process. Our goal is not to help the bank collect money. Our goal is not to make sure that realtors all get a house listed to sell. Our goal is to help you to avoid foreclosure, if that is what you came to us for. We're there to be advisors for you on what your best steps are, what things you can do to help improve in your situation, to be a source of information for you on the foreclosure process, as well as on information pertaining to your particular mortgage. We're also there to be a referral source for you. You know, someone talked earlier about people needing assistance with utility help or something that would help them to be able to have more money to put into their mortgage. Perhaps if you got somebody to help you pay a utility bill, if you found a food pantry that would help you with food, then that would free money for you to pay your mortgage, or your housing counselor can make those referrals for you. The housing counselor is also your agent in negotiation, if you choose to have the housing counselor negotiate for you. What the counselor can do for you is to help you negotiate with or contact your lender. There are a lot of times that people call and they say, listen, I've talked to them and I just can't get anywhere. I can't get anybody on the phone. Well, this may be something that as a housing counselor and as a housing counseling agency that's a participant in the Hope Now Alliance with 995 Hope that has some contacts at a lot of servicers that only speak with housing counselors and sometimes move things along faster. That might be an area where we can act on your behalf and possibly get you some results a little bit faster. We can also, again, help you to understand the process and where you are in the process to help you understand your loan documents. So many times people have come into my office and they said to me, you know, I should have understood this. I took a class. Did you take a class? We took a class in order to understand the mortgage and the note. You didn't have that. Don't let anybody make you believe that this is your fault, that you didn't understand the paperwork, you should never have signed that, you knew better. Sometimes you just don't know. And there are times that I go over the mortgage documents with people and they had no idea what it was that they were signing, and that happens. And that's when you can contact Terry's office if you were misled somewhere along that line. You can contact legal services. Your housing counselor can make that referral for you. I can't tell you whether anything is legal or not because I'm not an attorney. But if you're not clear on how something happened, how did I get to this place because I was told this thing or I was told that thing, the housing counselor can make that referral. We can also provide information for you, much like Terry gave you, on the available options. What are the things that I can do in order to improve upon my current situation? We can refer you out for financial assistance. Am I only behind one mortgage payment? Was I laid off for 2 months and now back to work? And I just need to catch up those 2 payments and I'll be okay? Your housing counselor can help you to identify resources that you can go to try and get some financial assistance if there's any available for you. Things the counselor cannot do. Because I always talk about what the counselor can do for people. And then sometimes people ask me to do things that I can't do. So, my name is Penny Meredith and not Tinkerbell. I don't have any pixie dust that I can sprinkle on your situation and make all your problems go away. I can work with you. We are partners in this, right? So the counselor can only work with you. The counselor cannot halt the foreclosure process prior to there being any sort of a confirmed workout and something that is signed and agreed upon between you and your lender. The collection process at the servicer's office and the loss mitigation and housing counseling foreclosure prevention process are like 2 trains moving toward the same station. Until they get to the station, till one of those trains makes it to the station, the process doesn't stop. So you'll still get called. You can feel free if you're working with the housing counselor to say, I'm working with the housing counseling agency, and they've contacted you and they've submitted my documents, or whatever it is that you can say that will help the person calling you to understand where you are in the process. But those calls don't stop. And sometimes people call us and they say, well, why haven't they stopped calling if you've been working on something? And sometimes that continues. The housing counselor cannot convince your lender to make an unreasonable workout agreement. Why won't they give me a loan modification? Well, because there isn't evidence that you can afford to maintain your home long term. If we can't show that you'll be able to afford this payment arrangement, which is what you talked about earlier, then the servicer, the lender, is not going to agree to the payment arrangement. A housing counselor can't force that issue. And also, a housing counselor cannot give legal advice. And the final thing that as a housing counselor we cannot do is that we cannot do anything at all without your help, okay? Your responsibilities in the process, things that as a housing counselor I would be looking for you to do. Probably the first thing, the most important, is to be honest about your situation. When you come to me, bring me all of your documents, bring me all your information, tell me the truth about your expenses, so that when we submit something to the lender, it's something that you can agree to with conscience, with your clear conscience, that you'll be able to make and maintain those payments. If you get a payment arrangement, that is for 12 months, and the 12 month is not normally a modification. A loan modification permanently changes the terms of your loan, and it normally would spread your past due amount through the course of your loan in some way. But if you got something for 12 months or 6 months, it's a repayment plan. Well, if I helped you to get a repayment plan based on the fact that you had an additional $200 a month in income, and that $200 isn't real. You said, I don't have cable, and you really have cable. You said, I don't have a cell phone, and you really have a cell phone. Then you're not going to make those payments, right? And not only does that affect you, because you'll be back in the foreclosure process, but it affects everyone else in this room. It affects homeowners everywhere, because if housing counseling is perceived as something that doesn't work, because they'll just help anybody get a workout, whether they can afford it or not, then the funding dries up. Then people don't believe in housing counseling, and we go away, and nobody else can get help. So for yourself and others, it's important that you're honest about all of your information. It's important that you bring in your documents. We ask you for a lot of information. Some people will say, I haven't given this much information since I got this loan in the first place, and that's true. Because having your lender look at your information in order to process a loan modification or a repayment arrangement or forbearance is just like having the underwriters look at your loan application again. Is this person eligible? And they have to make sure they have all the information that helps to meet the guidelines. So if you got our intake packet out front and you said this is far too much information and I don't want to give it to them, please complete the information, because it's important that we have that information.